These are the 7 signs of aging in men over 65 you can't ignore, and you must know them before it's too late. What if your body has been warning you quietly, and you just didn't know how to listen? Today, we're breaking the silence. We'll show you what your skin, belly, voice, and even your memory are really trying to say. Before we begin, take a second. Tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? Because no matter where you are, every man over 65 needs to hear this. Let's begin. Number 1. The unmistakable smell of aging. Picture a freshly laundered cotton shirt catching the morning light by the kitchen window, a clean collar, smooth fabric, and yet a faint note of old paper and cedar quietly remains. Accept that small signal as an invitation, not a flaw, because it is the skin speaking in the gentle language of time. Science has identified a specific culprit in this message. The compound trans 2-nonenal, an unsaturated aldehyde formed on aging skin, increases with advancing years and was detected only in adults 40 and older in careful gas chromatography studies that examined body odor from ages 26 to 75. The odor quality is usually described as grassy or waxy rather than sour or rancid, which is why it can linger even when clothing looks spotless. These observations do not point to poor hygiene. They simply map how chemistry shifts as decades pass. The pathway behind this change begins with oxidative stress on skin surface lipids. As cell turnover slows and antioxidant defenses decline, polyunsaturated fatty acids in sebum are more likely to undergo lipid peroxidation. That process generates aldehydes, including trans 2-nonenal, which carry a strong scent and can persist on fabrics. Laboratory work shows that trans 2-nonenal is a well-characterized product of lipid peroxidation, and dermatology reviews consistently connect cumulative oxidative stress with visible and invisible markers of skin aging. Understanding this biochemistry reframes the experience from embarrassment to biology and opens a door to practical steps that lower oxidative pressure on the skin. A real-world scene makes this clearer. A cedar-lined closet in the Midwest holds neat shirts from years of work and care. Even after regular washing, cuffs near the wrists keep a whisper of that bookish, woody note. The source is not soap failure. It is a slow, predictable shift in skin chemistry that many households notice long before anyone gives it a name. Recognizing the pattern turns frustration into a plan. Action begins with the skin and with daily routines that calm oxidation. Diets that emphasize antioxidant-rich choices such as green tea, citrus, leafy greens, and colorful vegetables support the body's own defenses. A theme repeated across dermatology literature on oxidative stress and skin aging. For direct deodorizing on the skin, a small 4-week human study of 20 men aged 43 to 75 reported that a tea polyphenol soap lowered measured trans 2-nonenal and improved odor ratings, suggesting that targeted cleansers can help when ordinary soaps fall short. The trial was modest and industry affiliated, so results should be taken as encouraging rather than definitive, but it provides a reasonable, low-risk option to test at home. Textiles deserve equal attention because aldehydes often linger in fibers. Warm water in the range commonly labeled warm on US machines, about 90 to 110 degrees Fahrenheit, improves emulsification of oils without the fabric damage that hot cycles can cause. Baking soda added to the wash can help with odor, while plain white vinegar used in a separate rinse cycle can aid neutralization. These two should not be combined in the same cycle because they largely cancel each other, and vinegar should never be mixed with chlorine bleach at any point due to the risk of releasing hazardous chlorine gas. Reading machine and garment labels remains essential so that cleaning power rises without shortening the life of favorite clothes. Odor-neutralizing sprays that rely on cyclodextrins can also be useful, since these ring-shaped molecules form inclusion complexes with unsaturated aldehydes like nonenal in water, which helps track the odorants until the next wash. Fresh air drying when weather permits provides a simple finishing touch. Safety always sits at the center. The unmistakable smell of aging is common and benign, but a sudden, strong, or unusual change in body odor without an obvious explanation deserves medical attention. Clinical guidance highlights that abrupt shifts can accompany infections, thyroid disorders, liver or kidney disease, or uncontrolled diabetes, including fruity odors during ketoacidosis. Seeking an evaluation for new night sweats, weight loss, fevers, or a dramatic odor change is a prudent step and protects both health and peace of mind. A gentle behavior cue closes the loop. Start with one focused routine for 2 weeks. Launder frequently worn shirts in warm water near 100 degrees Fahrenheit with 1/2 cup of baking soda, then run a separate rinse with 1 cup of white vinegar, never in the same cycle and never with bleach. Choose a cleanser formulated to cut oxidized skin oils or one that includes tea-derived polyphenols. Add a daily cup of green tea and a 15-minute outdoor walk to support skin and circulation. Revisit the closet after 14 days and notice whether that faint cedar and paper note has softened. Small, steady changes restore comfort and confidence while honoring the biology that comes with a well-lived life. Number 2, the expanding belly that refuses to shrink. Picture a man in his late 60s standing in front of his closet, reaching for a pair of trousers he has worn for years. The fabric still looks fine. The color has not faded. Yet when he pulls them on, the waistband no longer meets where it once did. The scale has barely changed, but his belly has taken a new shape. This is not a matter of vanity or overeating alone. It is one of the clearest signals of how the body changes with age and why attention to the waistline matters so deeply for health after 65. The biology is straightforward but profound. As men age, muscle mass declines steadily, a process known as sarcopenia. At the same time, levels of testosterone and growth hormone diminish, slowing metabolism and reducing the body's ability to burn calories efficiently. Energy that once fueled muscle is now stored more easily as fat, and much of it settles deep in the abdomen. This visceral fat does more than change appearance. It secretes inflammatory chemicals that increase the risk of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, and even cognitive decline. In fact, studies from the American Heart Association show that men with a waist circumference greater than 40 inches carry a significantly higher risk of cardiovascular events compared to those with smaller waists. Consider Frank, a 76-year-old who lived most of his life lean and active. He ate the same meals he always had, enjoyed long walks, and thought he was doing well. Yet one morning he noticed bending to tie his shoes felt different. His belly pressed forward in a way it never had, while his arms and legs looked thinner. He learned what research confirms. Aging shifts fat storage from the limbs to the core, creating a belly that feels stubborn, no matter how little has changed elsewhere. The good news is that this change is not irreversible. Resistance training has been shown in numerous studies to slow or even reverse muscle loss in older adults. Lifting light weights, practicing bodyweight exercises, or using resistance bands 2 to 3 times per week can restore muscle and raise metabolic rate. Nutrition plays an equal role. Older men require more protein to stimulate muscle repair, around 1 to 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight each day, spread evenly across meals. Lean meats, eggs, fish, beans, and dairy are all powerful allies. Cutting back on refined carbohydrates and added sugars helps stabilize insulin levels, reducing the body's tendency to store fat around the middle. Safety must always guide the response. A slow and steady increase in waistline over years is expected, but a rapid enlargement of the abdomen over days or weeks, especially if accompanied by swelling in the legs, fatigue, or shortness of breath, requires immediate medical attention, as it can signal fluid retention or organ disease. The invitation here is clear. Do not ignore the expanding belly or dismiss it as an unavoidable part of getting older. Treat it as a vital sign, a piece of information that can be measured with a tape at home, noted in a journal, and shared with a doctor. Begin with one change this week. Add a resistance exercise twice. Measure the waist on Sunday morning after a normal breath out, and replace one refined carbohydrate with a protein-rich food. These actions, repeated consistently, will not only trim inches, but restore confidence, mobility, and health. The belly may expand with age, But it does not have to dictate the future. It can instead become the signal that motivates strength, renewal, and a longer, more independent life. Number 3, the growing ears that keep changing with age. You may stop growing taller in your 20s, but your ears will never stop growing. That statement often shocks people the first time they hear it, yet it is supported by decades of anatomical observation. While bones reach their final length early in adulthood, the soft cartilage that shapes the outer ear continues to expand slowly, and gravity gradually pulls the lobes downward. For men over 65, this change becomes more visible, sometimes startling when compared with old photographs. Scientific studies in Europe and Japan have measured ear length across decades and confirmed the same trend. The average male ear grows by roughly 0.22 millimeters per year. Over 30 years, that can mean a growth of nearly a centimeter, enough to alter the balance of the face. The phenomenon is not dangerous. It is not a disease or a warning sign of illness. It is simply biology playing out in a quiet, persistent way. Yet, because the face is central to identity, men often react strongly when they realize their ears look larger than they remember. George, a 78-year-old retired teacher, experienced this one evening when his grandson asked why his ears looked longer than in the wedding photos on the living room wall. For George, the comment stung at first, as if aging had stolen a piece of dignity. But when he learned that almost every man his age experiences the same change, his perspective shifted. Instead of shame, he began to see his ears as symbols of endurance, proof that he had listened to thousands of voices and stories over a lifetime. From a medical standpoint, the growth is caused by two forces. First, cartilage, unlike bone, does not fully stop producing new tissue, so the ears lengthen little by little. Second, the skin surrounding the ears loses elasticity with age, allowing gravity to stretch the lobes downward. The combined effect is subtle each year, but unmistakable over decades. Sun damage can accelerate this process, as ultraviolet light breaks down collagen and elastin in the skin, making drooping more pronounced. Though it cannot be stopped completely, several strategies can slow the appearance of change. Protecting the skin with sunscreen and hats reduces damage from ultraviolet rays. Staying hydrated and eating foods rich in collagen, supporting nutrients such as vitamin C from citrus and leafy greens, helps maintain skin structure. Some men use moisturizers or vitamin-enriched creams to keep earlobes supple, reducing the impression of thinning. For those deeply concerned about appearance, dermatologists even offer simple cosmetic procedures to restore volume to sagging lobes, though such steps are elective and not medically necessary. The important message is safety and reassurance. Growing ears are not a signal of poor health. They do not indicate hearing loss, heart disease, or any underlying disorder. They are a universal sign of longevity, present in men across cultures and histories. Seen through that lens, they can become less a source of discomfort and more a reminder of how long life has been lived. The behavior cue is simple. Begin protecting the ears today. Apply sunscreen when outdoors. Wear a wide-brimmed hat during gardening or walks, and keep the skin nourished with hydration and healthy food. Just as strengthening the body with exercise preserves mobility, caring for the skin preserves dignity. The ears may keep growing, but with the right care, they tell not a story of decline, but of a life long enough to carry wisdom worth listening to. Number 4, the disappearing calves that signal more than appearance. Robert was 75 when he first noticed something unusual. After years of strong legs from walking to work and tending his garden, he looked down one morning and realized his calves no longer held the same shape. The muscles that once carried him with power had thinned, leaving his legs looking smaller, weaker, almost foreign. What he felt was not just about appearance, it was a sign of how muscle gradually fades with age if it is not actively protected. Science is both sobering and empowering. Beginning in the mid-60s, men can lose 3 to 5% of muscle mass each decade, a process known as sarcopenia. The calves are often among the first places this shows because they carry the burden of daily movement and rely on circulation that can diminish with age. Studies have linked shrinking calf muscles to slower walking speeds, poorer balance, and a higher risk of falls, which remain one of the leading causes of injury in older adults. In fact, research from the National Institute on Aging shows that reduced leg strength is directly tied to loss of independence in later years. The causes are multiple. Declines in testosterone and growth hormone reduce the body's ability to rebuild muscle tissue. Circulation changes can deliver less oxygen and nutrients to the lower legs. And even men who remain active often walk at a pace that no longer challenges their calves as running, climbing, or heavy lifting once did. The result is gradual thinning of the very muscles that act as pumps for blood flow and anchors for balance. But just as Robert discovered, the story does not end there. When he began simple exercises, calf raises while holding the kitchen counter, brisk uphill walks in the neighborhood, and resistance band stretches, he found strength returning within months. His calves did not look like they did in youth, but they grew firmer and stronger, enough to make climbing stairs easier and walking feel secure again. Medical research confirms his experience. Resistance exercise can increase muscle size and power even in men well into their 80s. A balanced diet with sufficient protein, roughly 1 to 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight per day, supports muscle repair. Adequate vitamin D and calcium help maintain bone strength, which works hand in hand with muscle to protect against falls. For circulation, activities that flex and extend the ankle, like walking on an incline or swimming, encourage blood flow and reduce stiffness. Safety remains central. If calf shrinkage happens suddenly, is accompanied by pain, swelling, or redness, it may signal a vascular problem such as a blood clot, which requires immediate medical attention. But in the gradual, expected thinning seen with aging, the proper response is not fear but consistent action. The practical invitation is clear. Stand at the counter and perform 10 calf raises twice a day. Add a daily walk, preferably on varied terrain. At each meal, include a solid source of protein. Check balance weekly by timing how long you can stand on one leg without holding support, and track progress as you build stability. These habits do not just preserve muscle, they preserve independence, mobility, and confidence. The disappearing calves, then, are not a sign of inevitable decline. They are a call to act, a reminder that strength can be rebuilt at any age. Every step taken to restore muscle is a step toward freedom, dignity, and the simple joy of walking through life with steady legs. Number 5. The changing voice that tells its own story. By the age of 70, nearly half of all older adults report noticeable changes in their voice, according to data from the American Academy of Otolaryngology. What is more striking is that almost 1 in 5 men in their late 60s describe their voice as weaker, raspier, or less steady than it once was. These statistics highlight a truth often overlooked. The voice ages just as surely as the skin and muscles do, and it carries deep meaning because it is tied to identity, authority, and connection with others. The biological explanation is clear. With age, the vocal cords lose elasticity and the muscles that control them grow thinner, a process known as presbyphonia. Reduced lung capacity further limits the power behind speech, and the mucosal lining of the cords becomes drier, leading to a voice that may crack, tremble, or sound strained. For many men who built careers on commanding voices, teachers, preachers, coaches, or leaders, this quiet fading can feel like losing part of the self. Consider William, a retired lawyer at 73, who once filled courtrooms with confidence. Now he notices that in conversation with friends, his voice trails off sooner, and in noisy restaurants, he struggles to be heard. The change is not only physical but emotional, leaving him hesitant to speak in groups, even though his mind and spirit remain sharp. Yet the science offers hope. Studies show that targeted vocal exercises, often guided by speech-language pathologists, can restore significant strength and clarity to aging voices. Simple habits like humming for 5 minutes a day, practicing sustained vowel sounds, or reading aloud with deliberate breath control can retrain the vocal muscles. Hydration is also essential. Drinking 8 to 10 cups of water daily helps keep the vocal cords supple. Avoiding excessive caffeine, alcohol, and smoking reduces dryness and irritation, while gentle physical exercise such as brisk walking improves lung function and breath support for speech. Safety should be emphasized. A gradual softening of the voice over years is common, but sudden hoarseness, pain, difficulty swallowing, or voice loss lasting more than 2 weeks requires medical attention, as these may be signs of vocal cord lesions or other health concerns. The invitation here is practical and uplifting. Begin by setting aside 10 minutes each morning for gentle vocal practice, just as one might stretch muscles before a walk. Share stories aloud with family, read poetry, or even sing along softly to favorite songs from earlier years. These small actions not only preserve the voice, but also rekindle joy and connection. The changing voice does not erase identity. Instead, it asks for care and patience, reminding us that communication is more than volume or pitch. It is the wisdom, humor, and love carried in the words themselves. With steady practice and mindful attention, the voice can remain a bridge to others, a living record of resilience, and a source of dignity long into the later years. Number 6, the fading eyesight that changes how the world appears. The eyes are the window to the soul, but they are also the mirrors of time, wrote Dr. Ann Coleman, professor of ophthalmology at UCLA and a leading voice in vision research and aging. Her words capture the essence of what so many men over 65 begin to notice: the gradual dimming of sight that alters not only how clearly the world is seen, but also how confidently it can be navigated. Science explains why this happens. As the eye ages, the lens stiffens and becomes less transparent, making it harder to focus on near objects, a condition known as presbyopia. The pupils shrink and respond more slowly to changes in light, which means driving at night becomes more difficult. The number of light-sensitive cells in the retina decreases, causing reduced contrast sensitivity and less vibrant color perception. The tear glands may also produce fewer tears, leaving eyes feeling dry or irritated. These changes are common and expected, but they carry profound effects on independence and daily living. Consider Thomas, a 70-year-old who spent decades reading the morning newspaper without glasses. One winter evening, he found himself squinting at the headlines and hesitating before driving to visit his daughter after dark. The letters blurred, and the headlights of oncoming cars scattered into halos. What seemed like a sudden decline was in fact the accumulation of years of subtle changes in his vision. Statistics confirm that Thomas is far from alone. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reports that 1 in 3 adults over 65 experiences some form of vision impairment. And the National Eye Institute notes that age-related macular degeneration, glaucoma, and cataracts are among the leading causes. Yet while these conditions become more common with age, lifestyle choices and regular eye care can significantly slow their progression. Nutritional research offers encouraging evidence. The landmark age-related eye disease study found that supplements containing vitamins C and E, zinc, copper, lutein, and zeaxanthin can reduce the risk of advanced macular degeneration by about 25% in high-risk individuals. Diets rich in leafy greens, carrots, citrus fruits, and fatty fish provide many of these same nutrients naturally, protecting the eyes from ultraviolet light with sunglasses, avoiding smoking, and keeping blood pressure and blood sugar under control. All support long-term eye health. Safety must always come first. A sudden loss of vision, flashes of light, or a curtain-like shadow across the field of sight is a medical emergency that requires immediate evaluation. Even without urgent symptoms, every man past 65 should have comprehensive eye exams at least once every 1 to 2 years, with dilation to check the retina and optic nerve. The behavior cue is simple yet powerful. Place a pair of reading glasses next to the favorite chair, keep sunglasses by the door for every walk outside, and schedule the next eye exam before the current appointment ends. Try adding a daily serving of spinach or kale and notice the long-term difference in clarity and comfort. These steps are not just about preserving sight. They are about preserving the freedom to drive, to read, to see the faces of loved ones clearly, and to live with confidence. Fading eyesight is not the loss of beauty in the world. It is a reminder to look more carefully, to protect the gift of vision with deliberate choices, and to trust that with science, care, and attention, the window to the soul can remain open and bright for many years to come. Number 7, the slipping memory that teaches us to slow down. Memory in later life can feel like a well-used library. The shelves are heavy with decades of stories, lessons, and names, but sometimes the newest books are misplaced while the oldest volumes sit ready at hand. For men past 65, this is a familiar metaphor. Long-term memories from childhood remain sharp. The smell of the high school gym, the sound of a first car engine, but yesterday's conversation or the name of a neighbor may slip quietly away. Science calls this age-related memory change, and it is one of the most studied aspects of brain health. The hippocampus, a region deep in the brain essential for forming new memories, begins to shrink slightly with age. Blood flow to the brain decreases, and levels of neurotransmitters involved in attention and recall decline. These shifts slow the ability to learn new information or recall details quickly. Yet it is crucial to understand that this pattern is different from dementia. Normal age-related forgetfulness does not prevent a person from living independently, managing daily routines, or holding on to life's most important knowledge. Consider Harold, a 68-year-old grandfather who remembers every detail of fishing trips with his father in the 1,950 seconds, but sometimes misplaces his reading glasses 3 times a day. His grandchildren laugh and help him search, and he smiles because he knows those glasses will eventually turn up. What he experiences is not the erasure of memory, but a slower retrieval system. The library is still intact. The index just takes more time to find the right page. Statistics support this experience. Studies show that nearly 40% of people over 65 report some form of memory loss, most of it mild and age-appropriate. The National Institute on Aging emphasizes that while aging increases risk for dementia, most older adults do not develop it. In fact, many maintain strong intellectual function well into their 70s and 80s, especially those who keep their brains and bodies active. Research offers hope and direction. Large cohort studies demonstrate that regular physical activity can reduce the risk of cognitive decline by up to 35%. Activities that challenge the brain, learning a new language, playing a musical instrument, or even engaging in strategy games help build cognitive reserve, a buffer that protects memory. Social interaction has also been shown to be protective. Older adults who maintain friendships, volunteer, or participate in community activities consistently show slower decline compared to those who remain isolated. Nutrition plays a role as well. Diets rich in omega-3 fatty acids, antioxidants, and whole grains support brain health, while excess saturated fat and processed sugars appear to accelerate decline. Safety remains an essential reminder. Occasional forgetfulness is common, but if memory lapses begin to disrupt daily life, such as forgetting how to use familiar objects, getting lost in known places, or repeating the same questions many times, it is important to seek medical evaluation. Early detection allows better management and support. The behavior cue is practical and encouraging. Begin with one deliberate new challenge each week. Learn a song on the guitar, cook a recipe from a new cuisine, or memorize a poem and recite it to family. Pair that with daily movement, even a brisk 20-minute walk, and aim to share a conversation every day that goes beyond small talk. These actions stimulate brain circuits, reinforce memory, and bring joy. The slipping memory, like the misplaced library book, is not a sign of emptiness but of fullness. The mind holds more than can be quickly accessed, and that abundance is proof of a life richly lived. With care, practice, and patience, memory remains a source of connection, wisdom, and meaning long after the years have piled high on the shelves. As we come to the close of this journey through the signs of aging, it is worth pausing to reflect on the lives of men like Richard, Frank, George, Robert, William, Thomas, and Harold, whose stories illustrate what it means to grow older with both challenge and grace. Each of their experiences is different, yet together they weave a picture of how the body changes after 65, and how those changes can become guides rather than burdens. Richard noticed the scent on his shirts even after washing, and what seemed at first to be embarrassment became a lesson in biology. He discovered that 2-non-enal is simply the skin's way of telling time. His story teaches us that awareness and small adjustments like antioxidant-rich foods or better cleansing routines can turn what feels like shame into understanding. Frank was always lean, yet in his 70s he saw his belly push forward while his arms and legs thinned. His surprise reflects what research confirms, that fat redistributes and muscle shrinks with age. But his choice to begin resistance training and eat more protein shows how even at 76, the body can be coaxed back into strength. His story reminds us that it is never too late to act. George compared his present self to his wedding photograph and saw his ears had grown larger, drooping with time. It unsettled him until he realized that nearly every man shares this sign. Instead of hiding, he chose to see his ears as symbols of the many voices and stories he had listened to across a lifetime. His perspective shows us how reframing change transforms discomfort into pride. Robert watched his calves thin, his balance falter, and his walks grow shorter. Yet by adding calf raises at the kitchen counter and walking uphill, he regained strength and independence. His calves did not return to their youthful shape, but they returned enough power to give him freedom. His lesson is that even small daily practices can preserve dignity and safety. William, the retired lawyer, found his once commanding voice growing faint in noisy restaurants. What could have silenced him became instead a reason to practice vocal exercises and to rediscover the joy of reading aloud to his grandchildren. His story tells us that the voice of age carries a richness that no courtroom ever could. Thomas struggled with blurred letters and halos around headlights. At first, he felt betrayed, but with proper eye exams, new glasses, and better nutrition, he reclaimed clarity and confidence. His story is a reminder that fading eyesight is not the end of seeing, but the beginning of noticing more carefully. Harold misplaced his glasses daily, yet could recall his childhood fishing trips in perfect detail. Rather than despair, he began to exercise his mind with games and learning, while cherishing the long-term memories that anchored his identity. His story teaches us that memory is not gone, only slower to find, and that wisdom is the memory of the heart. Together, these men show us that aging is not about decline, but about adaptation, resilience, and perspective. The body sends signals, but those signals invite action, not surrender. The belly that grows can become the reason to move more. The calves that shrink can become the reason to strengthen again. The voice that fades can inspire new ways of connecting. The eyes that dim can call us to look with patience. The memory that slips can lead us to tell our stories before they fade. So here is our invitation to you. Which of these stories spoke to you the most? Do you see yourself in Richard's shirts, Frank's belly, George's ears, Robert's calves, William's voice, Thomas's eyes, or Harold's memory? Leave a comment and share the lesson you will carry forward. Your story might inspire someone else to take action today. And if you have not yet subscribed to our channel, please subscribe to our channel right now so that you do not miss the next lesson, the next story, the next reminder that life after 65 is still full of possibility. Explore the other videos we have shared, because each one holds guidance you can apply to live longer, healthier, and with more meaning. Thank you for watching, and thank you for walking with us through these stories. May your new day be filled with health, strength, and all good things. Aging is not the loss of life, it is the deepening of it.